Hi, this is Ross Payton here with Role Playing Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 67, Be a Better Player. And with me, as always, is Tom Church.
Man, sorry, I'm just admiring the way your face juts out when you're doing that.
I know, I can't help it. It's tradition now, and
I know, but
the listeners
well, I know I can no longer comment
kill
on,
me if I stop doing it.
but I can no longer comment on the voice. I think I've said everything that must be said about the voice, but it is the physical appearance you have when this happens that now fascinates me.
Oh, I see. You're moving on. So now the listeners will get a chance to see our faces made for radio soon enough because speaking of news, the Killsplosion Kickstarter was a resounding success. We raised $2,800. Of course, 10% of that goes to Kickstarter, but this will allow us to get his camera. In fact, I've already got the camera. It's a Canon XA10. It's
Plug.
a very nice. It's a very nice HD camera, and it's very. I got it on sale, but still, it was expensive. But whatever.
Anything for the fans. Ross will
Anything.
spend any amount of money.
I'm actually thinking about doing a documentary or a series of mini documentaries called Fantasy Heartbreaker. Have you heard of this term, Tom?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, it's a term used in the RPG industry to describe the people who put together pen and paper RPGs that are like D&D but with a different skill system or something like that. And it's, you see them in game bookstores, they're just doomed products because, D&D has already been done and it's called D&D and nobody's going to do it better. You think you might, but you're not going to sell better than D&D. No, just,
Yeah. You're not going to take on that Goliath.
Everything other than D&D and maybe, Vampire is basically a rounding error in terms of RPG industry sales. So, but there's still the people still come out with these labors of love and photocopies, and they're great to see. So I'm going to interview some game designers, like at VisionCon there'll be Kevin Symbieta and Jolly Blackburn, I believe. So I'll interview them first. I'll put those up as short ones and see what kind of response they get. And Gen Con interview other people, and then track down some people who designed some of these. Little mini or these labors of love.
You can have Caleb with you when you talk to Symbieta?
I think Caleb would be either numb or go into a berserk fugue, in a fugue state. I don't want that. I mean, the listeners would kill me because he has Call of Cthulhu games to run, and that.
Now, we could always claim
a guy from Brazil would just murder me if I ruin Caleb for that.
Yeah, that's true.
To
protect Caleb from himself.
That's one of the ideas I have. There's also, of course, we're going to do Artemis Spaceship Simulator now. We have to figure out the logistics of getting all of us together in the same room we can record it. And it's only Windows 7. And many of us have MacBooks. Oh my God, what idiots do that? Yeah. So we have to figure out all that. But we will record that. I think our first project will be Tom and Thad talking about pop culture. Perhaps we can have them have a conversation without them actually saying an original word of their own, just talk entirely movie quotes and television.
Perhaps movie quotes, television quotes, maybe even quotes from famous world leaders or something.
Yeah, as long as it's not something they actually thought of, as long as somebody else said it first. So we'll see. We've got a lot of things planned on that, but of course now I just got the camera. I have to learn how to use it and all that other good stuff. So good things coming. So again, and then of course the Kickstarter. I've already posted a schedule of roughly of how the Killsplosion game will go. Basically, I'm going to write the rules, a beta version of the rules, and then email them out to contributors, and they'll get the rules first. And they'll have a month to playtest them, and then once I get all the feedback from playtesting, I'll revise it and then lay it out in a nice fancy PDF with art from Ian Moody and Violet Kirk. My
little droppings.
And then your stories, yes, Tom's brilliant, stories of machine guns and chicken suits and whatnot. And then we'll release it. And then once the main game is done, then I'll do the zombie versus human expansion, and then we'll go from there. So, and then of course I'm going to run the games online Skype if you've signed up $50 or more. I've posted a schedule of that too. So that will be in December, in fact, starting pretty soon. So in other news, I did have a little money left over, so I signed up. I found a good deal for Minecraft server hosting, and I went ahead and set up an RPPR Minecraft server that has a 4-player maximum right now. We might expand it later on. So there's already several people on there building all kinds of crazy fortresses and tree houses and all kinds of ridiculousness. I'm on there too, as Clockwork Joe. So if you're a Minecraft player, jump in, and build shit.
Build your skull fortress.
Yeah, build a skull fortress crying magma. Because that's
what Yahtzee said.
That's what you need. That's it for our news. Yeah, thanks again for believing in us as our most successful Kickstarter ever.
I believe we can fly.
I believe we can fly. And we'll of course have more in the future. So, but this Kill Explosion, I think, will be a really fun game. I have a lot of fun designing it. And
Ian and Violet said they had a lot of fun with the artwork.
Yeah, the artwork, as you saw in the slideshow video, is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Especially,
I'm going to have them illustrate your stories too. That's going to be the remaining artwork aside from that. So each of your stories will have a little, little picture. So.
You're looking forward to the guy in the chicken suit with the saw, right?
Well, exactly. Why wouldn't I? Who wouldn't?
You'd be
Even
crazy.
Communists would love to see that. I mean,
wow, you're actually invoking communism?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a universal appeal. I think everyone on the planet would literally love to see a man in a chicken suit firing a machine gun.
I can't argue with that.
Thank you. I know
you can't.
Exactly.
There's nothing you can say.
So we should move on. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about, we begin, our usual episodes are advice for GMs because they're the ones who need all the help they can get. But
the ones that are the cat herders.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we would do an episode basically focusing on the players. They are the backbone of the game. I mean,
and the millstone around the GM's neck.
And the millstone around the
just
always the optimistic.
Well, GM's like everything. Like this game would be great if it weren't for the players.
Yeah. So we've talked about this a few times in the past, but this time we're the premise of the episode is that we're challenging all of you who are actually playing in a role-playing game right now, in a campaign or a series of one-shots or whatever, to undergo this challenge in 30 days or whenever, the next 4 sessions. Find one way to improve yourself as a player and to improve the game. And this requires observation, analysis, and then acting on your analysis. So to give you some context for what we're talking about, Tom and I are going to be talking about the kind of things as a GM when we're running games that we'd like our players to do and some of the things we hate our players to do. Doing so.
If only my players would do this, I wouldn't have to ease the pain by stabbing this red hot needle through my calf muscle.
Okay. You're just full of sunshine and cheer today, and kitten hugs and
I love kittens. And that red hot needle is the same color as the sunset.
Oh God, that's poetry, man.
Poetry in motion.
All right, so the first thing that I think of when I think about players and what they can do to improve the game is their backstory for if we're doing a campaign. One shots it doesn't matter so much because the one shots are all about the plot.
And besides, those players are probably doomed.
Right. Well, depending on the game, if you're doing a D&D one shot, that's but. We usually do Call of Cthulhu horror game one shots because they are doomed. They'll fail their fucking mountain climbing checks sooner or later. So, backstory is just there's a such thing as too little backstory, and there's such thing as too much backstory, and there's also the bad fit. The backstory that doesn't make sense.
What do we mean by that?
Yeah. Too little is something that's very
I fought in the war. And I came back, then I started working for the government.
Right. That sucks.
It. Yeah.
And then or it could be something that's kind of long, but it's very vague, and it's just like I was doing bad things for bad people, and then bad stuff happened, and I ran from it. And
I've encountered those. It's like players that want their character's backstory secret, even from the GM.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I better know about it.
Right. So, yeah, exactly. That just...
Otherwise, you can't say, I pull out my Makarov pistol signed by the spy master of the KGB himself. Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
It's one of those things it's one of those mysterious things in my back. You mean, I did mysterious things and went to places? That?
Yeah.
It's not my fault you didn't read through the subtext in those lines.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm not lying about that. That actually happened.
Really? The Makarov pistol?
Well, because actually, fun fact, in the original, the first edition, Heroes Unlimited book,
Yeah.
it actually lists the Makarov pistol.
Yeah.
And it's a really like specialized pistol that uses an ammo only used for that gun.
Right.
And of course, any gun in a book that's actually specifically mentioned and shown in any greater relief, players like want.
Yeah.
And this player made a spy.
Yeah.
And that was his backstory. And he had one of those pistols signed by he made up like the spy master of the KGB.
Nice.
And we're like, so okay, that's amazing. Doesn't do any extra damage. Like, well, it's a specially designed gun by the spy master.
He designs guns. He's not just a master of spies. He designs guns and he signs them, and the signing is what makes them better.
Yeah, because I have to mention this. He actually claimed because it was designed by the KGB spy master, that gun should actually do somewhere along the lines of 10d6 worth of damage per shot, at least.
10d6 damage?
Yeah.
Wow, that's that's literally equal to a hand grenade, I believe.
Yeah. Well,
or actually, hand grenades did 1d4 times 10 damage in Palladium, so it was better than a hand grenade.
And he argued it.
Wow, that's
wow. But yeah, that's once again. Now, if you had mentioned in your backstory this specific incident, like it was a major part in your character's life, I still would have had you lower the damage, but I'd be open to, okay, maybe an extra couple d6 of damage to it.
Yeah.
But, nope, 10d6 pistol, got it. Because for those mysterious things I did.
Wow.
So, too little backstory.
Yeah. No shit. No.
That was not just backstory, that was also just being a dumbass, but.
Yeah.
Well, that is a problem, I think, players say, don't be a dumbass, just.
Don't be a dumbass.
But that's kind of like the huge overarching goal. Just don't be a dumbass. That's really for only people like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Don't be a dumbass. But that's a little too vague. It's not actionable, as they would say in government reports. So that's the too much, too little. There's also the bad fit, which we have examples.
Well, too much back. We haven't done too much backstory.
Oh yeah,
yet.
too much. Too much is the epic backstory that's pages long and very demanding. Where your character has multiple, it's just too long, I mean, I don't know
brings too many plot points into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that also kind of fits into the bad fit, which is either too many plot points and too many, or it's incompatible. Like you were talking about the Shimise in one of your...
Yeah, I recently tried to run a Vampire the Masquerade game, right, which promptly ended because it's not like I fooled anyone. I told them, okay, it's going to be Camarilla based.
Right.
So everyone, he says, I'm open to some independence maybe, if you can give me a good reason for it. So, I had Ventru, Toreador, Nosferatu, and then another player like Jimmy C. Okay, of all the clans you could have chosen, that's the hardest to bring in besides maybe the Bali if you're still doing them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay. So he says, well, he's...
Shimize, for those of you who aren't familiar, are the flesh-crafting Draculas.
Yeah, they're literally called fiends.
Yeah.
So I say, but he says, oh, it's okay. I'm one of the Jimisi anti-tribe, which is essentially the opposite of what you're
Bizarro.
calling. Yeah. So I'm like, all right. But then I let him make the Jimisi, filling in the dots and all that, freebie points. So then when it came for backstories, he still tortured without mercy, looked at humans as playthings and cattle, nothing for food and experimentation, actively wanted to seek people out to torture them. So essentially, he did everything as Jimisi did, but I'm an anti-tribe, though. Okay. No.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible.
I mean, one person in a game did a Setite, the followers of Set, but didn't corrupt people, is not on the road of Typhon, which is their, the corruption path. It was on the road of humanity.
Right.
Just happened to be, his sire happened to be one who should have chosen his child more carefully because he was not interested in corrupting people.
Right.
I could work with that.
Right.
But this was I want to play as Jimmy C, but call him anti-tribe, just so I can actually play him.
Yeah, basically just switch teams. Like, I'll be a monster, but I'll be a monster for that team, not this.
And of course, his nature was monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to no, not happening.
Yeah. Good call. Now the thing is, you think about these types of character backstories. So then you should think about what is the purpose of a backstory for a character. What is its use in a game? And the use is not only to help define the player character, but to give the GM tools to help that character adventure in the world. I mean, that's the purpose of a backstory. Is like, hey GM, here's some things you can use in your game. Some pre-built plot hooks, some characterization, some sort of likes, dislikes, some ideas. Now, the thing is, with too little, then you're not given enough material to work with. If you're given too much, then you have too many to choose from. And the problem is, backstory is important, so if you give him too many to work with, then he can't use all of them, and then they'll be neglected. And or the other chains, if you use all of them, then the campaign's about that one player character, and that's really fucking sucks for the rest of the group.
And I've known some players that they get mad if all the plot points they provide are not used.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's fine that your character is the chosen one who was the last of his clan, who's the last of his country, who was trained by a ninja.
And is a daywalker.
And is a daywalker and also travels through time. But really, pick one. Because, the thing is, the best characters in the fiction, or the most interesting ones, are the ones that have a few interesting traits, but are clearly defined. I mean, Harry Potter doesn't fight crime on the side. He doesn't go out and beat up muggers. I mean, and he's not like, Batman doesn't go out and learn magic on his own. He probably, or he doesn't go out and have, actually, Batman's kind of hard to think of because he's kind of a Mary Sue. He does a little bit of everything. But most characters don't, Indiana Jones doesn't fight crime, for example. So that's not what the character's about. He's an archaeologist.
Superman doesn't go treasure hunting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he doesn't go treasure hunting. That's exactly. So he doesn't do what Indiana Jones does. And Batman usually doesn't go out in the galaxy and, fight cosmic evil, what the Green Lanterns do or whatever. He doesn't try to be everything to everyone, because if you try and be everything to everyone, then you're no one. So, and if you're trying to make your character special, and the next thing is, of course, being special. That's the thing about player characters. They all have to be special, which is fine, because why else would you be adventuring? If you were a normal person and you fit in society, why would you
be going to work?
You would be going to work and getting, a spouse and having kids. And
having 2.5 kids.
Having 2.5 kids, paying taxes, and being a normal person. You wouldn't be go out risking your life in the abandoned mansion, reading the book written by the madman to close the portal to the Elder Realm, because, that's fucking crazy,
You're not going to go home to your wife and kids after that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, Bob got ripped apart by something that cannot be described in the English language, but...
and
I'm homeless, and I lost all my money buying that rare book in the antique store.
It's like, oh, and honey, I have a tentacle for an arm now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it wants to eat you.
Yeah. So if you give me that butcher knife, I'll chop it right off, and hopefully I won't die of the blood loss.
Like, how are the kids?
Yeah, exactly.
My God, that would actually be kind of a fun thing to do, though.
That would be fun, but it wouldn't fucking make sense.
No.
And it would kind of, as you can say, it would kind of collapse pretty sooner or later.
We should by the way, I think we should do that, actually, to have that, as a skit or something, then have, nagging wives when they come home.
Well, that's a little sexist, but I mean, just, dealing with that. I'd like to see, or the reverse roles, the stay-at-home dad with the the D&D fantasy wizard mom who's like, yeah, I had to kill the dragon. Shut up. Why is this castle dirty? You have
honey, the kids wanted to go fishing today.
I had to go watch the game, the goat murder game, where you watch a troll murder as many goats as it can in an hour. Yeah, well,
let me tell you, the guy they got now. Champion.
Yeah. I think we got a real shot at the title this year. And then cue domestic drama. But yeah, in normal, adventurers have to be
chainmail wife beater.
Yeah. We're getting off on a tangent.
I'm sorry, but we do that.
In general, players want their characters to be special, and that's fine. You want, that's
actually, I kind of think actually playing the Jimmy C in a Camarilla game was along the same lines.
Yeah.
I know he said Camarilla, but I don't want to be one of them.
Right. But you want to be in the game, so I'll just fudge, yeah, he's anti-tribe. It's just, he's a monster on your side, That'll work.
Or actually, even worse, I mean, once again, on White Wolf, the most horrifying examples were still back when we played Werewolf.
Yeah.
Somebody inevitably would have picked up one of the Changing Breed books. You know how I know this? Because I was one of them.
Yeah.
I was joining a werewolf game, but I had just picked up the Mokale book. So of course I wanted to play the Mokale, which of course, if anyone will tell you, does not play well in a game that's not an all Mokale game.
And the Mokales, of course, are the alligator dinosaur types.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like the Rokia in that sense. So not fitting in with werewolves.
Oh, the Rokia kick ass if you're in an all Rokia game.
Right. They're all.
But otherwise they don't.
Yeah.
So, the GM was like, can't you just play a werewolf? Like, no, I must be special.
Yeah. So, as you can see, the special snowflake syndrome is kind of annoying, to say the least. And if you're the player that does that,
stop
it out.
Yeah. Stop that.
Try and transition. Or even if you have a special snowflake character, try and adjust him so he's less of a, annoyance. Or less of a square peg in trying to fit in a round hole kind of situation. So, of course, aside from your character itself, your PC, there are other things you can do to improve the game. You as a player can do. One is understanding the rules. Rules mastery is an important concept. Like a lot of people complain in the Fourth Ed, New World campaign that the players didn't understand the rules very well.
Well, there's a good reason for that.
Yeah,
we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't rule it. And if I've played it, and I mentioned in previous episodes of playing in games where everyone understood the rules very well, and combat was so much smoother, much more interesting when everyone understood what was going on, and like, I'll use this power for this thing. So it certainly improves the game. Now, even in the clips phase, when Caleb's running it, I try and look up rules to keep. Okay, well, if he takes this much damage, if he's taking 2 wounds, he needs to make a fall knockdown check and fall unconscious check. And I don't take sides. I try and be fair so that the players take it too. So there's that.
Well, there's also a fine line between knowing the rules and being a rules lawyer.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, you don't want to use, like, rules lawyers always use it for their advantage. Zealous representation of their PC's interest. But if you're a player, then it doesn't. Then the GM will stop trusting you if you're always a rules lawyer. If you just help him out when he's on a weak spot or something like that, I try and present it in open end. Like, here's how I think it's done in this way. You're the GM, do whatever you want.
Yeah. But you're also open to interpretation too.
Yeah. And the GM always has final say. Otherwise, why are you even playing this game if you're trying to usurp control of him? GM, narrative theory or something. So that's one area you can improve. Rules mastery. Understand the rules better. Like, especially if you're playing in a rules-heavy game. Learn the rules of what your character does. Don't be that guy who's like, what does my spell do again? What do I do?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's the real... Like, even in the Fourth Ed campaign, the New World campaign, the players... No one was ever so bad. Like, I don't understand what's going on. What do I do? Like, that's just horrible.
We do study beforehand, even if it's a cursory glance. Yeah. But we know basically what we're going to be doing.
Right, and so you don't want, like, I've played in games where, like, the guy's like doesn't understand anything what's going on. Is like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's just so annoying. Don't be that person. So that
happens a lot. That happens a lot when someone wants to get into role playing, but
yeah. I mean, at first you can do that, but like, try and learn a little more each session so you're not as dependent on others. Don't enable people that do that to be like, I'm not going to tell you, fucking learn yourself.
Or just pass them a book, like.
Yeah, exactly. Look it up. Jesus, if you're playing a role playing game, don't be allergic to reading. I don't understand people who hate reading and still want to play role playing games. I mean, what?
I think a few people think of role playing games like video games.
Yeah. Well, the computer's doing all the math in that.
I know.
You have to be the computer. Jeez.
Like, that's not too much to ask.
Yeah. Compute millions of calculations per second. Wait, you don't have to do that. You have to add 2 numbers together, or subtract 1 number from.
Well, okay, unless you're playing champions.
Yeah. Well, we're not.
Then you better be.
Yeah. Well, those are people. They chose that life. They chose that life, Tom. We're not gonna They know what.
It's their lifestyle.
Yeah. That's what they get. They chose it. Like, you can't defend.
That's I say champions is is the role-playing game the Borg have to play.
Yeah.
Because only their collective hive mind could calculate the shit you need to in that.
Yeah. Another thing I think is just in general etiquette. Like, again, the person who doesn't pay attention, like sometimes the person keeps asking, what do I do? What do I do? Because he doesn't understand the rules. Sometimes it's because he doesn't fucking pay attention.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's obviously, checking your cell phone every once in a while, or texting every once in a while, or doing something like that, or reading or making characters for another game, is okay.
But I do say first, all groups do this.
Yeah.
It happens to every single group.
Yeah.
And usually every single player, at least once or twice.
Right. I mean, I do it sometimes too, usually when I'm dead, Caleb, with your fucking mountain climbing checks.
And,
Not that I'm bitter.
Yeah, it happened a lot. I noticed it happened a lot when we were doing D&D combat.
Yeah.
When we were just waiting for our turn.
Right. You see, I would pay attention, but I was running the game, so,
But you had to.
Well, I mean, even when I'm playing in D&D combat, I pay attention, even when it's somebody else's turn, because, I find it interesting. But I'm just a freak like that, obviously.
You're a monster.
I know. But in general, like, what do you do? Like, it's not even combat necessarily. There's some people who are just like, I don't understand why they're even playing the game. Like, they never pay attention to whatever is going on, and they constantly have to be asked what they're going to do. And it just never...
Or when combat comes up, they have to be like, dude, you're on.
Yeah. Or just like, hey, what is your character going to do? You're in the bar. What's going on? What are you doing? Like, I don't know. What's he doing?
Is there drinks in this bar?
Yeah. You played with people like that,
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah.
Actually, more horrifying, I was in a game being run by someone like that.
Yeah.
Who, he would tell us where we were, and then his girlfriend would need something, or he'd get a text.
Yeah.
So, and the sucks about that is, when he has to do that, everyone has to wait on him.
Yeah.
And he would do it constantly. Apparently, little, Hex's like, love you, kiss, kiss, texts from his girlfriend were more important than what he was doing there with 4 people sitting around his table.
Yeah. Like, why, if that's your priority, why are you trying to run a game? You can't have it both ways. Either be kissy with her, or be like, run a game.
But that also that's happened with players too.
It's it does. That's why we're talking about it.
But yeah, it's like girlfriends keep texting you,
right. Or some other distraction, pops up, and it's just very rude for the other people that are playing the game.
One time, it actually killed a game session.
Oh yeah.
It was back in the my actual high school days.
Yeah.
We were gaming at someone's house. There were 3 players in the GM.
Yeah.
And there was a Far Side comic book.
Yeah.
And one of the players, during scenes, would just pick it up and start reading it.
Yeah.
Not flipping through it, but reading each one. And occasionally would like, have you read this one?
Yeah.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's really rude. Don't be that guy. God, how could you do that?
Especially, first of all, yes, I've read everything Far Side. Yeah. I've seen it before. And second of all, put the fucking book down.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, actually, the GM actually has to say, made a new rule. When he was running a game, no books that didn't have to do with the game were allowed on the table.
Yeah. So in general, if you're a player... Yeah, like, this could be your one thing. Don't bring distractions to the table. Put your cell phone on silenters, vibrate or whatever.
Or if you really are expecting something important, tell everyone, hey, I gotta have this with me today. Right. I might,
but it better be a legitimate emergency. Don't just do it because you want she'll get angry if I don't go send her a kissy face every hour or whatever like that.
Besides, there are apps that will send one every hour on the hour.
Yeah, there's an app for that, undoubtedly. So yeah, just try to control yourself at the table. Remember there are other people there, and they're trying to have fun, and your actions influence what they do, like how much fun they're having. So don't be a negative Nancy. Don't be a distracting Danny or whatever. So, I got it.
Don't.
Yeah,
just don't, Ross.
And finally, you were talking about things you were doing as a player, like to improve the game, and you mentioned something about like playing against type.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say it. Everyone who listens to any of our regular plays know my favorite type of character. And, no, I'm not even going to say it. You know it. But I do occasionally, often the game won't allow me to do it, so... but I don't shy away from those games. I've had some players have done that where I've mentioned the game has been announced, only they say okay, I want you but I need everyone to play this particular species or this race, and so no, I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
It's like a D&D game. The GM wanted everyone to be humans because you were all part of the same empire, and everyone was fine with except for the person who always played elves. This was the kind of person that this was a otherkin type person.
Yeah.
Who probably believed he was, but that's what he always played. But when he couldn't, he just threw a big sulk.
Yeah.
But me, even games when I can do it, sometimes I'll play something different.
Yeah.
So in D&D, even when there's an option of playing something monstrous, I'll play a human, or I'll play Vashik is a
right. In the New World campaign, you played a lawful good character, which is very unusual for you.
The reason is being evil's a lot easier. It really is. You remember the times at the table when you presented us with your fucking moral choices.
I know.
And I see that, I'm like, God fucking damn it. If I was evil, this would be over now. But I can't.
Poor Tom.
And I looked at you, I hated you and loved you for it at the same time.
Yeah. So you had more enjoyment because you actually had to play. So
yeah,
it was
and
more
also
of a challenge.
It helped the GM too, because I imagine because it gave you some shit you could do to me.
Right.
Because you wouldn't just throw in it wouldn't if the orphan child ran up to me and please sir, I need your help. I'm not just gonna go. I was like, that's great. Break it, then just slowly strangle him to death and just hush little baby. Start singing that, but no, it's actually that's what I said. I have to help this kid. There's no other choice. Even though the rest of the group is they're all out ahead of me, ready to go, but no, I have to help this kid.
Yeah.
Son of a fucking bitch. I've several times looked at you with rage in my eyes.
Yeah.
But I went along, and it made things better, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you're playing a character and this sort of goes with it too. If you're playing a character that's kind of hard to role play, don't overdo it. Actually, less is more sometimes. The reason I bring this up is because of the whole fish milk idea.
Oh yeah.
Fish milks. If you're not familiar with the term, it comes from White Wolf again. So many of these examples come from White Wolf for some reason. Almost if they're it's draw. Well, I don't want to draw any conclusions. But there's one clan of vampires called the Malkavians, the Malks. And in one of the supplements they had for it, they had a picture of a Malkavian kissing a fish. And someone used that to describe this tendency for players to play, an insane character as the goofy, wacky Johnny the Homicidal Maniac / Invader Zim. Look at me, I'm so wacky.
Yeah. I've always contended most players cannot play crazy properly.
No, it's really hard. And for me, I'm playing Bartleby, an insane person in Eclipse Phase, and I'm finding it very challenging because I want to make sure that I'm not just normal. I'm crazy, blah blah, but I do everything normally. But I don't want to be I don't want to be a fish milk either. So it's very challenging and it's very rewarding for me to try and do this. So I don't know how have I been doing with
no
this?
Quite well actually. And I would say GMs as one. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to play crazy, but then you play it that way. Thank you for playing crazy that way.
Yeah.
Because GMing for someone that all they're going to do is just wibble and then stick pencils up their nose or something. Okay, and anyone else want to do anything that's actually real? You?
Right. So, the thing for me, my idea with crazy is that in order to show his insanity, one, I had this whole, delusion about the Red Queen, which if you listen to the Eclipse Phase actual plays, you'll find out about. But the other things, I figured if I made certain choices that were important, that would be a way of demonstrating my insanity. One, for example, was a general sort of blasé attitude towards life. Killing people didn't matter to me because you can always be relieved. I just didn't see the value in it, or my character did. And And then the other thing would be my character would, however, sympathize with people that were in a similar situation that he was once in.
Yeah.
Which would be like being imprisoned in simul space is something like a trigger for him. So like anytime I see someone who's like that, I try and rescue them. So like I would, and then also so those are the kind of things I do. And the thing is, I didn't feel the need to constantly reinforce the fact that I was crazy. Mm-hmm. Like crazy people try not to be crazy. Like they try and hide it as long as they can because the consequences.
Yeah, most crazy people don't revel in it.
It reminds me of like someone said about acting. Like if you want to act like a drunk, don't act like a drunk. In other words, try to emphasize the fact that you're trying. Alcoholics try to hide that they're alcoholics. They do everything they can to try and outwardly sign to people that make signs to people that I'm not a drunk, I am a sober person. So they overcompensate. They're very stiff in their movements, or
like I can drive.
Yes, I am normal and rational. Blah 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 blah. I am not a drunk. So with me, that's kind of my idea with Bartleby. Is he is not? He's trying not to be crazy. So he is trying to be normal whenever he can. And so I don't constantly feel the need that every single session, every single interaction doesn't have to be like, I'm crazy. Blah, 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 blah.
Like I have pants on my head.
Yeah. So he's functional too. So he's, trying not to constantly, so there are many scenes where I act normal. I don't do anything unusual or weird. It's just every once in a while, I just try and play that up.
And just about most crazy people can really seem lucid most of the time.
Right. So that's the kind of thing. So that's how I approach that particular role-playing challenge. So when you're trying to role-play your character, I think a lot of players feel the need that they have to constantly re-emphasize their shtick or whatever there is. If I'm a lawful good person, I have to be lawful and good and a paladin at all times in all ways.
Right. Or if I'm playing a barbarian, I have to be Conan all the time.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. See, Conan's actually a very sophisticated, very complex character.
I have to do the Conan stereotype.
You have to be, Thundar the barbarian, like me strong, me I'm smash you. But Conan, if you read him, he could fit into kingly court if he wanted to. He could seduce a sophisticated courtesan if he wanted to. He could he could also get along in a thieves' den. He could talk to a wizard without killing him immediately, even though he hates wizards because it's like, well, this particular wizard has something I need, so I'm going to help him.
Then it would be easier to get and not kill him.
Yeah. So Conan could act different in different situations, even though his personality was the same. He expressed it in different ways at different situations. Other players think that, I have this one stick, me dumb barbarian, so me use this hammer on every single situation I have. And that really gets annoying. So you have to have a sort of like, think about the character and what they want to do and how they would act out. I know this is like, improv acting, crazy.
Well, that's part of the gaming thing.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're role-playing a character, try to vary your shtick. It's not bad role-playing if you're not constantly doing it. I just see that so often that they have to do the one thing over and over again. I'm a paladin. I can't have fun. Having fun is illegal. No one else can have fun.
No one can drink. Temperance.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's one type of paladin. That's not the only type of paladin. You can be lawful good and be the life of the party. Like water into wine. Everyone, come on, really, celebrate. Yeah. You think about characterization. You try and be a little more complex, and I think that's another thing.
Actually,
playing against the same type. The stereotype.
Actually, we encountered in a D&D game I was in. We encountered a really awesome example of that.
Yeah,
we were going into a lich's den.
Yeah,
who's like this has been his den of evil, and where he works magic for like 1,000 years. But when we came in, we had to. I mean, he has still had undead minions everywhere. We had to fight. When we got to him, he was actually just so thrilled to have visitors to his place that yes, he was still evil. Yes, he was a lich, but actual conversations with people that could talk back to him.
Yeah,
he welcomed us.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean that. Who was running that game?
This was back. This was
that Geekers.
Yeah, I think this one. Yeah, this is one of our Geekers games.
Okay.
But yeah, I was like, wow, that was kind of. I mean, still evil.
Yeah.
But just he didn't want. I mean, he didn't want to fight because that would mean he could no longer talk to us.
Right. He valued the thing that he didn't have, which was conversation. That was the one thing he lacked, despite all his power. So that's another thing. Think about what your character lacks, what he wants, what he lacks the most. That's what he wants the most, and so and that can be very different. So
yeah. I mean, it's cool, but he actually started like the webs and the dirt that he'd just gotten used to over millennia.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's like, and starts trying to clean the place off. And
yeah, so yeah, that's a great
and
scene.
like none of us had the heart to kill him because he just seemed so pathetic.
Yeah, so like, oh, you're evil, but
It's like he's evil, and he actually has souls trapped in jars on his shelves. But this was back from adventurers who tried to kill him in his early days.
Yeah.
When they were threatening his power. Now he says, like, I wish I could talk to them. He says, well, actually, he did. He just talked to the jars on his shelf.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
But I mean, yes, a little bit off topic, but I love that a lich that's living for millennia.
Yeah, it's
might go crazy from isolation.
Anyone would, like, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. His priorities change too, so he is no longer evil. Like, that's another thing. People change over time.
And might start thoroughly regretting becoming a lich 1,000 years ago.
Right. Or he might decide to redeem himself, or he might decide to become like, I'm going to go above ground and become rich. I don't care. I'm going to become a business tycoon.
Another challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a number of ways, and so with your character, think about different ways you can characterize them. And like for example, you in the Eclipse Phase campaign, your character, is the octopus socialite, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But you're coming up that you're eventually going to have to make a decision. Are you going to be full-time firewall, or are you going to be like full-time socialite media host? Because eventually it's going to come to the point where
I can't be famous and be a member of Firewall.
Well, you could be a member of Firewall, but you can't go out on missions and go out and, save the universe from existential threats, because that requires, keeping secrets and not explaining things to your parent company. Like, I was off the grid for 3 weeks and I'm in a new body for some reason.
Also my charge account's getting ridiculous.
Yeah. So, yeah, here's the episode, or you can't, and I can't tell you why. So
I was hacking the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. So
sorry, had to do that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you have to think about. So like, how are you gonna? I mean, obviously you haven't come to a decision, but how are you gonna role play it? Is it gonna come down to? I mean, what are your character's motivations at this point?
Mm-hmm.
No, what are they? Yeah.
I mean, he loves being the socialite and his show, but he also realizes that surviving even in this solar system is a very fine thing.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah. So he's probably gonna so for him it's like the greater good, like sacrificing his personal happiness for what he believes is the greater good, the cause. So yeah, okay, that'll be interesting to role play out. So kind of a tidbit there for our Eclipse Phase players or listeners. So that kind of goes over some things you can do, some ideas for you to specifically improve your game as a player. So we challenge all of you who are playing in games right now, do one thing to make your game better as a player.
And then tell us.
Yeah, post in the comments, post on the forums, Twitter me or tweet at me at, I'm at twitter.com/Ross Payton.
Ross Payton published author.
Or go on the Minecraft server and tell me on the Minecraft server.
While you build your Skull Fortress.
Yeah, my Skull Fortress. I believe someone's already set up a Mumble voice over IP voice server, so we can chat along doing that. I haven't investigated that yet, but yeah. So next up Tom, of course, will have a letter.
Letters are normally just about things that are pissing me off. Little tiny things that have no real relevance in the grand scheme of the cosmos, but whose little tuning forks of annoyance hit me at just the right frequency as to cause me to have small psychotic breaks that propel me into a fugue of rage that I waken from hours later in the woods with the bloody body of a transient before me and raw flesh and blood in my teeth. And this letter is no different. Well, maybe different in size and scope. The thing that pisses me off now is game-related, but a very tiny piece of gaming. The game is World of Darkness, and the little nugget of rage is the status background. Now, I'm mainly putting this one to Vampire, as both of my unfortunate encounters with the status background were from this game. The status background represents your position in vampire society. Having nothing in it means that you are the vampire equivalent of a rock critic, pointless and beneath notice. Having a full 5 means that you are the equivalent of a prince of a city. Now, most neonates should have no status. They are brand new for the most part and haven't had a chance to make a name for themselves. No, playing a new vampire with some status is certainly possible. It can even be fun. I played in a game where one player was sired by the Ventru Primogen, and he had some status because of that. He would often drag us along with his political misadventures, and we had a blast. But this is not what causes me pain. It is the player who wants to start with a status of 5 and to have all the power that goes with it. This has happened twice in my gaming experience. The first time ended exactly as it should. The GM refused, and after a 20-minute crying session in which the player accused the GM as having a moronic fag who couldn't see the inherent awesomeness of his character, he stormed off in a huff. And we had a very good game without him. The second time the GM allowed it, and what followed could not be called a clusterfuck, as that would be a great disservice to clusters of fuck. Such a high status gave the player the title of Prince. That in and of itself was a red flag so big that if placed at the very bottom of Challenger Deep, it would still rise far enough into the sky that low-flying airplanes would have to keep an eye out for it. It said that A, the GM would allow anything, and B, the game wasn't going to last long. And it did not. I'm not saying that a game in which the players are powerful people with much influence in local and global affairs can't be fun. Quite the contrary. Intrigue and power plays on a large scale can be great. It's that very few people can play a powerful leader very well. And this was soon after high school, so you also had to throw to the mix a load of raging hormones and deep insecurities. The player portrayed the prince as a horrible crossbreeding of Gordon Gekko and every stereotypical version of the hedonistic Roman emperor. He called the Primogen into a meeting so they could pay tribute to him and shower him with wealth. He had lavish orgies despite him being a vampire and thus unable to feel sexual pleasure. He blatantly tried to assassinate the President of the United States because of a new crime bill that would put more police on the streets of his city. And when the inevitable coup began to throw him out of power, he expected all of his minions to fight to the death for him. That's when I realized it. He was playing general like it was a video game. His units stood their ground and fired bullets, trying to whittle down the enemy's life bar before their own life bar expired. And when that unit was dead, he sent in a new one. In fact, he was literally trying to make new units like it was Command & Conquer by embracing hobos, giving them assault rifles, and telling them to die for his honor. I am not making that up. And imagine his surprise when those new vampire hobos turned on him and cut him down with AK-47 fire. The players screamed at the unfairness of it all and never played again. After about 10 minutes of gaping in amazement at the unbridled hilarity of what we had just seen, we took a break to get some food. And then we came back and continued the game, this time as vampires picking up the pieces after taking part in a bold move to oust a corrupt and insane prince and restore the order and peace to the city and uphold the masquerade. Our characters received great thanks from the Camarilla for our actions, and the GM gave us all a free point of status as heroes of the day. It was a wonderful and ironic gesture, one we cherished for quite some time. Still, I don't recommend much use of the status background. It seems like a fun idea, but very few people can pull it off correctly. Most of the time, all you end up with is tears, screaming players, and vampire hobos. So for the good of everyone and everything, just don't do it.
And we're back, and what was, you're telling me, Tom, what exactly was the phrase he used as soon as he, had risen, created these vampire hobos?
It was like, go forth and die for my honor. That's what he said.
So imagine the hobo, from the hobo's point of view. You just wake up, your heart's not beating anymore.
You're not breathing.
You're freaking out, and then there's some pale
and
guy.
by the way, they hadn't even had any blood yet.
Yeah, there's some guy out there who's yelling at you, go forth and die for my honor.
They literally had assault rifles just pressed into their hands.
And he's surprised when they turn it on him. And what's funny is that if he was a little more patient or a little more intelligent about that, he could have had an army of vampire hobos if he had blood-bound them. If he had fed them his blood, then he would have a team of mind-controlled slaves.
Which I did mention in the letter, but the one of the kicker, he actually kept essentially a larder full of hobos for just this purpose. But he kept them as humans.
He didn't turn them.
No, he said, I'll turn them when the emergency happens, I'll turn them then.
It takes 3 nights to blood bond somebody. So
giving their blood over 3 nights. Yeah.
So you do that, and then they're mind controlled. So at least they'll be dependable, like the units in a video game. Like in StarCraft, Marine isn't going to go off on his own. He'll go exactly where you click him to go. So they could be like that. But no, he's not even. He has built-in mind control powers. If he was just intelligent enough to use them.
The thing is, when I mentioned he went to assassinate the president, he sent his sheriff to go assassinate the president, and his
himself.
Well, I mean, the sheriff. I mean, of course, the sheriff of the city was, like a low generation, very old, Bruja, just a killer.
Yeah.
But he was also loyal to the Camarilla. So when he got that order, he went to the prince. I mean, this was in New York City. So he went, he went to visit. Put in a call to a prince in Europe, saying, "This prince is insane. He just asked me to go kill the president." And they said, like, "We'll be right there."
Wow. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to shoot." The president.
And the GM told the guy, says like, like your loyal, your still loyal servants have said that there's the European Camarilla, which are like the true inner circle of the Camarilla, have just put a blood hunt on you.
Yeah.
And he says, they will die by my hand.
Well, at least he was ambitious. So.
And oh my God, I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
I suddenly remembered what his plan was. What his plan was to deal with them.
Yeah.
He wanted to go find the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And basically, embrace him, make him his slave to get the launch codes for the nuclear arsenal. And then once the sheriff killed the president, to steal the football, and then launch missiles at like London and Paris and Rome.
Well, at least he had a plan.
He had a plan, yes. And the GM was. I'm at a loss.
What are you doing to my game, you monster? You're destroying everything.
No, but there were 5 players in this game, so the other 4 players were just. We're gonna kill this guy.
Wow.
It was. And he didn't do it ironically.
I wanted that. I'd love to see one try just like totally derail one of my games just to see what happens. Like, I love what are you gonna do? I'm gonna fucking assassinate the president. Like, I'm gonna buy all the status of because I like to see where that would go because that would be kind of fun. But I don't know. Like, yeah, it would end badly though. The campaign would be in shambles.
So if we suddenly in your. In the Wild Talents, we just went to Washington, crashed through the White House, and
I'd be like, God damn it, I'm going to have to stat up all the super Secret Service bodyguards in the ideal now, and then we'll have another fucking 2-session fight where you trade punches with...
So essentially, it's like the Illithid City, except it's the White House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. So,
but yeah, that happened.
Yeah, wow.
That's when I realized that, yes, as bad as the games of early high school and just after were...
Yeah. They were entertaining.
You have stories.
Yeah, you do have stories. So, shout-outs.
Okay.
First off, I'm going to mention the RPPR Minecraft server again. The address will be in the forums link that I will be putting in the show notes. So you can go there right now. There's a 4-player maximum. That might change in the near future. So show up. Don't be a douche. Don't wreck other people's shit. There's signs on most of the buildings. So yeah, there's that. Next up, we're both mentioning this. So
yeah. Skyrim.
Yeah.
I know,
we usually don't mention super big popular things like that.
But no game has sucked my life away like this game has.
Yeah, I haven't put as many hours in it as Tom has, but yeah, I put in a good number of them.
It's a game that actually kept me from doing other things I should have been doing.
Yeah,
I haven't had a game like that in a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
And what I love, actually, what I'm mentioning, it's very rare that a game has been hyped up this much and have it live up to that hype.
Yeah,
this is the first game that's done that in a long time. So. Bravo, you life-sucking vampire game.
Yeah. So, next up, I'd like to mention a movie we both saw just yesterday.
Wow.
Called Rare Exports. It's Finnish, and it's about Santa Claus. And it's...
But...
I'll just post a link to, the trailer, and there's really... How do you describe it?
There's a few things I could say.
Yeah.
20-foot tall demon in ice.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
Old man junk.
Yeah.
There's that. Yeah.
That's a European film.
And Human Trafficking Incorporated.
Yeah. Well,
Elven Trafficking Incorporated.
Oh my god, it's a crazy ass movie. So watch it, I guess.
Yeah, just watch it. And be changed forever.
Yeah. Next up, I'd like to mention Knights Black Agents. This is a new gumshoe game from Kenneth Haidt. It's about mixing vampires and espionage. So think about Jason Bourne with the Camarilla, or basically vampires.
Nice.
Like Project Treadstone is about vampires making, vampire agents instead of like that, or kind of like that. It's got new mechanics for chases and all that kind of spy stuff. So yeah, I haven't got it yet, but it just sounds badass. Tom, you were mentioning something.
Yeah, well, first of all, like I know this is not exactly an obscure thing, but I love it. I bought the first season box set for Boardwalk Empire.
Okay.
That's series from HBO, set during Prohibition.
Yeah.
Where Steve Buscemi gets to actually play the main character and not get killed. And boy howdy, HBO doesn't shy away from violence.
Nope, it does not. That is HBO.
It's not TV. It's HBO.
Exactly. Next up, I'd like to mention another RPG that I have gotten called Black Crusade, which is the newest Warhammer 40k RPG. And this time you're playing the Agents of Chaos.
I'd play this one.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I am going to run a game of it one shot, but I'll make all the characters first because it's got a complex system. And then I'll come up with a scenario. And the thing is, I like the idea of playing the rebels that are fighting the Imperium, because the Imperium, if you're reading 40k, is fucking insane. Totalitarian, theological.
Well, the Emperor. The Emperor's a god emperor.
Yeah. Well, and he's dead, but he's not, and it's bizarre. It's a very complex, weird setting. But like, I could just see it like everyone else is just playing a person who's like, oh my god, everybody in this universe is crazy, and they become agents of chaos because that's the least crazy, ironically enough. Well, that's my premise, so I haven't written it out yet. But anyways, Black Crusade, beautiful production values, art, good writing. You can play Chaos Space Marine or a human heretic, or a heretic, or renegade, or any number of things. So that's cool. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's a graphic novel I really like called "The War of the Undead."
Yeah.
Well, it's got a lot of plot in it.
Yeah.
It's just after World War II, and some Nazi agents want to bring back Hitler. There you go for there.
Yeah.
But they want to do it by using the Wolfman and Dracula and Frankenstein's monster and a huge army of zombies.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, that's a very good strategy.
And nothing bad or violent happens. There's a picnic.
Who wrote it, or do you know?
I can't.
Who drew it?
I can't.
It
remember.
sounds like a Mike Mignola thing a little bit, doesn't it?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's some of the artwork's kind of similar, but it's definitely not him.
Okay. Well, it sounds cool.
And of course, they
published it.
Once again, it's not any company I recognized.
Okay.
But yeah, they also teased about the next part they're doing, which is like the Martian invasions of the 50s. This time and it shows Dracula in like kind of a 50s space age suit of armor.
Nice. Speaking of that kind of classy stuff, I'd like to mention a documentary I just saw called American Grindhouse, the history of exploitation cinema from the beginning of cinema to Black Dynamite. So from Freaks to Black Dynamite, everything from like Grindhouse started even before the 70s. It was actually there actually used to be like in the 40s theaters that were open 24 hours a day. And like they would just show bad movies all the time, They just, in fact, like homeless people would get tickets just so they could sleep in them, so they sleep indoors. So that kind of stuff. So yeah, before TV, man, things are different.
Yeah.
Then let's see, there was a movie you just saw that you wanted to talk about, the Patton Oswalt one.
Oh yeah. I had a list, and I told you, I recently bought this. Well, it had Patton Oswalt, so they had me at hello.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it to be that good. It was.
What is it?
It's called The Fan. It's where he plays this obsessive fan of a football team.
Yeah.
Who one of those kind of fans.
Yeah.
And he ends up meeting like his hero on the team, who then proceeds to beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Only it just makes him more fanatical. And Patton Oswalt really could. It's a funny movie, but not in a comedy way.
Yeah, black comedy kind of.
Not even that. Yeah, kind of like that. But man, Patton Oswalt's really great in this, and the woman playing his mother,
yeah, she's
really good too.
Yeah,
it's just you've got to stop doing this.
Yeah,
no, great stuff.
Cool. I saw one of those motivational posters recently that people do for funny things. It said fantasy football D&D for jocks.
Yeah,
Because that's what it is,
basically.
Finally, or a few more. One, I saw an ebook that I liked recently. I just showed it to Tom. It's called Citation Needed. Someone's gone through Wikipedia and picked some excerpts of some of the weirdest entries and some of the funniest ones, and just kind of like compiled them into this 99-cent ebook. So it's a good kind of light, funny reading.
Right.
Like they had one that was hilarious. Well, they've had several that was hilarious. Inglewood, California. Dare America, D-A-R-E. Dare to
drug awareness and resistance education.
Yeah. America has its headquarters in Inglewood. Despite this, in the 1996 rap hit California Love, Dr. Dre remarks that Inglewood is always up to no good. That is actually something somebody wrote in Wikipedia. Like,
wow.
Yeah, Dr. Dre, he knows what's up in Inglewood, and it's no good. So, Anyways,
also I got one more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a riff track. It's a riff track that Ross and I watched. But it's I'm more coming. The riff tracks, of course, is good as always. But it's the movie that I found amusing, which was Laser Mission.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned this because I got a chance. I know someone that is like a Crow fanatic.
Yeah. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee is in this movie Laser Mission, and so is Ernest Borgnine playing a laser scientist of indeterminate country. Yeah.
He literally uses French, Russian, and German and Spanish. I counted all 4 languages coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, whatever accents, whatever phrases he could use.
Yeah, and first of all, I'll say it has no lasers in it.
Yeah,
but I want to say for people to think Brandon Lee is. It's like he was a god cut down in his time. Watch that movie, then come back to me.
Well, it was the Crow came afterwards. So.
It did, but I mean, these are also the people that think he was just awesome all his life.
Yeah,
like no, he had to work like most actors did.
And finally, I would like to mention 2 podcasts I listened to recently. Fear the Boot and Genosodes. They both had interviews. I was just on a Kenneth Haidt kick recently, and I listened to. They both interviewed Kenneth Haidt. Well, actually, one was an interview with him specifically, and the other one was a game design panel he did at a convention. I forget which one, but he has a lot of good insight into game design and what is the purpose of D&D? D&D was originally created to provide continuity between fights. Provide some kind of this is how we got from fight A to fight B. That's it. That's all it was. And it did its job remarkably well. And it went on from there. So if you wanted to listen to get some really good, I'm of course on a game design kick because I'm designing a game, Killsplosion, right now. So that is why I listen to those. So
that is amazing.
I know, right? So it is a interesting listen. So so thank you, Fear the Boot and Genosodes, for doing that. That's our show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so finally we have the anecdote, and we've been playing a lot of Call of Cthulhu lately. I've done 2 scenarios. Caleb's run one recently. One was called The Construct, and I'll be running that on the Skype mini convention for Nemesis. I don't want to spoil that, but it's crazy. Oh my god! Then Caleb ran one, which was a mountain climbing game that he was playtesting. And I posted this on Twitter that my character died because I had a climb of 50% and a con of 7 and a strength of 9. I was climbing the 5th highest mountain in the world.
I think what it was is Caleb used the Bayaki program and just went with the first set of stats
I know that, but a 50% climb, really? So
you shouldn't be up on that mountain.
Yeah, no. I was like, how do I climb the mountain without having to make a climb check? Because as soon as I'm going to make a climb check, I am going to fail that. I know that. 50%? Really? So anyways, but the second game I ran was called Operate Heavy Machinery because I finally wanted to really lionize that skill, which
is never used.
Yeah, because it's just a cool idea. Operate heavy machinery. Okay, that's kind of weird in a game of library use, photography, spot hidden. Operate heavy machinery. That kind of stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it?
It's like I am well versed in the occults of the world. I can drive a bulldozer.
Yeah, exactly. So the scenario is set in a slaughterhouse, an industrial slaughterhouse meatpacking plant in Nebraska.
Upton Sinclair, eat your heart out.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, bad things happen, and there's flesh-eating monsters and all kinds of insanity happening. So, Tom, why don't you just tell about your character?
I was playing the machinist at the plant. I operate the everyone. I think everyone had operated heavy machinery in this.
No, actually, half the players didn't.
Oh, well, I had it.
You were one of them. Aaron was the other, I think.
And I was the mechanic. And we were the well-paid, skilled workers of this meatpacking plant.
Yeah.
And let's just say we didn't exactly do smart things in this game.
No one did.
No. And of course, it ended in my death.
Yeah.
When I tried to speak to a monster.
Basically, there was one building that was still under construction, so there were bulldozers and things around. And the survivors of the initial attack were hiding or taking shelter there. But in the back, where it was most built up, someone had died. Someone had been something in the shadows was throwing spears up above and in the rafters. And so you and Caleb went to rescue the NPC, and then Caleb, you got attacked. I rolled ridiculously poorly because I always do in Call of Cthulhu, and so you're attacked. And what was your reaction? I want you to describe your words.
I believe it was I used words along the lines of it's like we're not here to fight. It's okay.
It threw a black organic spear at you, and you're like, we're not here to fight. After it already attacked someone. And you stood your ground, and then it threw its spear again. And it missed the first time. It was actually the third spear it threw, or third or fourth.
Killed me instantly.
Yeah. Because so...
But, ironically, no one used that skill in the game.
I know! That's why, oh my god, if you had, I would have already posted it by now, but you didn't, so I'm not like, and Aaron, of course, had the best death, though. Because Aaron, basically, there was a cliff behind the meatpacking plant, the one cliff in all of Nebraska, and that was preventing the escape because cultists had set up like rifles on there, and they were shooting anybody who was trying to escape, just run away. So that's why everyone was, cowering in that building. Aaron found a tunnel that led from a small building to the parking lot on top of the cliff. That's where the executive and management were. So he got behind the cultists, and he could get into a car and escape, but instead of just driving away, Aaron, like a boss, decided he was going to save the day and run over the cultist with his new car. But he failed his driving check twice in a row. I said, well, Aaron, you can either stop the car because you failed your check, or you can double down. And if you double down, you'll be fine. But if you fail your second time, you'll go off the cliff. And he fucking doubled down.
And he rolled. Not like a boss.
He car sailed off the cliff, hit the ground.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah. And Caleb was chased, almost got away, but was chased down by the giant flesh monster and consumed. Yeah. Jason character showed up late and managed to escape because he made a really good persuade check and blah blah blah. So,
but the world was still fucked.
Yeah. So, the Call of Cthulhu is a fun game. It's
where if you fail, literally the world can end.
Yeah. Or if you take the wrong decision, let's try to talk to the monster throwing spears. That will work.
Did the monster at least for like 1 second, like, I can't believe this is happening?
No, it didn't think like a human anymore. It was
a
hunter-predator type, so...
Sigh.
You, out of all people, I would have thought would have figured out what it was doing. So,
well, what can I say?
Yeah.
I was drunk on life that night.
I guess. All right.
Not booze, though.
Yeah, we know, Tom. So, this has been RPPR, episode 67. Be a better player.